So you've beaten the game, but have you truly mastered it? Anybody can throw up their jukes against the final boss or complete the very last main mission. It takes a rarer breed of player to latch onto a game, squeeze out every last bit of content, and utterly and completely bend it to their will. Not every game is made equal, however. Even if you have the drive, some games are almost impossible to 100%. Yes, we're using that as a verb here. Dominating these titles requires some impressive skill, or at the very least a whole bunch of spare time, but it can be done. The devil's in the details. Achieving 100% in Devil Daggers takes only one achievement, lasts for 500 seconds, and the aptly named Devil Dagger trophy is yours. You might be thinking to yourself, that's not a long time at all. And then you'll remember, oh that's right, this is Devil Daggers. In Devil Daggers, 500 seconds is an eternity. Not that there's much to Devil Daggers. After retrieving the titular dagger, you simply stand in an empty, flat room and hurl blades at waves of increasingly difficult enemies, looting their bodies for gems that you can use to buy upgrades. If you want the achievement though, you don't really need to worry about that. Getting 100% doesn't require you to amass a certain number of kills or get certain upgrades. All you need to do is survive for a little over 8 minutes. Easy, right? Not so fast. Devil Daggers was inspired by 90s shooters like Doom and Quake, as well as classic arcade titles. If you weren't around during that era, rest assured, those games take no prisoners. Devil Daggers is no different. If you're hit once, you're dead. Game over, end of story. That's why only 0.1% of players have managed to finish it. Hold me closer, Necrodancer. Ryan Clark, lead director and programmer for Crypt of the Necrodancer, thought that 100%ing the roguelike rhythm game was more or less impossible. After all, it's not like the game is easy. In Crypt of the Necrodancer, you can only move or attack if you hit a button on the background music's beat. Missing a note doesn't usually penalize you, but it will prevent you from taking an action, which can leave you vulnerable to incoming enemies. While Crypt of the Necrodancer begins with a single character, you can unlock more, each of which slightly changes the way that the game plays. Coda, who gets unlocked after you finish the experts only or characters mode, itself a daunting task, makes a tough game even harder. See, Coda isn't very resilient. Almost everything kills her. Collect a piece of gold? Dead. Get hit by an enemy? Dead. Miss a note even while facing off against a boss with a 350 BPM soundtrack? You guessed it. As Necrodancer's programmer, Clark is pretty decent at the game, but he's never finished a Coda run. He even named the achievement for doing so impossible, right? Well, it's not. Not only have 0.1% of Steam users managed to complete the task, but in 2016, Clark watched a speedrunner called Spooty Biscuit completely dominate the game with Coda, and then go on to do it again without picking up any items. Clark told Kotaku in July 2016, "He has defeated my game utterly, and I couldn't be happier about it."
That's nice.
Change your tune. Believe it or not, SingStar, Sony Computer Entertainment's casual karaoke title, is one of the hardest games to 100%. Not many people have done it. According to PSN profiles, only 0.68% of SingStar owners have earned the PS3 Edition's elusive Platinum trophy. Now, SingStar isn't a rare 100% because nobody's playing the game. The SingStar franchise is incredibly popular, especially in Europe. It's hard to complete because many of the trophies take a ton of time to unlock. If you want to get the BFF trophy, for example, you need to sing with a friend 300 times. For Musical Marathon, you'll need to complete 400 tracks. Even if you're a professional vocalist, that's a lot of singing. Other trophies require some pretty serious pipes too. Performing vibrato for 300 seconds, that's 5 solid minutes. Or singing with perfect pitch for 10,000 seconds, which over 2.5 hours, just isn't something that all of us can do. Throw in some trophies that can only be earned on specific dates like Valentine's Day or Christmas, and you've got a game that's deceptively difficult to complete. Keep those throat lozenges handy, you're gonna need them. Mortal Kommitment. If you're a fighting game aficionado and an achievement hunter, we hope you really like Mortal Kombat. Like, so much that you're cool with playing it for 4 solid weeks, because if you want to accomplish everything that the 2011 fighting game asks you to, that's exactly what you're going to need to do. For the most part, Mortal Kombat's achievements are pretty easy to snag. Performing a fatality, which unlocks the Fatality achievement and trophy, is something that you'll accomplish during regular gameplay. What does this button do, which requires you to beat the arcade ladder without blocking, can be challenging challenging, but it's far from impossible. It's when you start talking about character mastery that things get dicey. Mortal Kombat defines mastery as using one character to win 100 matches, perform 100 fatalities or babalities, successfully land 150 X-ray attacks, spill 10,000 pints of blood, and play as a character for 24 hours. That's quite a commitment, and in order to 100% Mortal Kombat, you'll need to repeat the sequence 28 times. The My Kung Fu is Stronger achievement only unlocks when you've mastered the entire Mortal Kombat roster, a task that takes a whopping 672 hours. No wonder less than 2% of the most dedicated Xbox and PlayStation Mortal Kombat players have managed it. Space Oddity. Elite Dangerous isn't just a big game, it's unfathomably huge. Using a combination of real-life scientific data and procedural generation, Elite Dangerous recreates our entire galaxy. If you can see a star in the sky, you can boot up Elite, hop in your starship, and travel there. Just set aside some time for the trip, it might take you a while to arrive. Fittingly, many of Elite Dangerous's achievements aren't difficult, but they do require quite a bit of attention. That's why only 4% of players on the Xbox-centric site, True Achievements, have managed to reach the center of the galaxy. Or why a mere 75 players have unlocked Supermarket Sweep, which is only given to players who hawk their wares at 500 separate markets. However, one of Elite Dangerous's most daunting tasks looks much easier than it actually is. In order to earn the Well-Trained achievement, all that you need to do is complete Elite Dangerous's tutorial. Amazingly, only 5% of True Achievements players have done so. What gives? Well, Elite's training section asks players to complete an advanced combat training test, which pits you against 10 waves of enemy spacecraft. For many, or at least the remaining 95% of Elite's players, that's more trouble than it's worth. Mountain of Madness. There's hard, there's near impossible, and then there's getting over it with Bennett Foddy. Not that we should have expected anything different, of course. Bennett Foddy is the twisted mind behind games like QWOP and GURP, which translate simple actions like running and climbing into Herculean tasks. Getting over it, though, is something different. As a man crammed into a cauldron and armed with only a blunt sledgehammer, you'll need to awkwardly swing, poke, and vault your way to the top of an abstract vertical structure. When you fall, and you will fall, there's nothing stopping you. A single mistake can easily cost you an hour's worth of progress. But that soul-crushing difficulty is the whole point. It's not a cruel game. When you mess up, Foddy muses on the nature of failure via voiceover and encourages you to continue in his own uniquely surreal way.
Players played stoically. Now everyone's turned off by that. They want to burn through it quickly. A quick fix for the fickle. Some tricks for the clicks of the feckless.
It's just hard, really hard. That's why so few people have managed to beat it, to say nothing of getting 100%. According to Steam, less than 5% of Getting Over It players have reached the top of the mountain, earning the Got Over It achievement. If you want to get 100%, however, you need to scale Getting Over It's ramshackle mountain 50 times. Not surprisingly, only 0.8% of players have done so.
You're pretty good.
You're pretty good. Pretty good.
Nigh or never. So, turns out that a new game from the guy who made Super Meat Boy is supremely difficult. Who would have guessed? The End is Nigh hasn't caught on like Edmund Macmillan's biggest hit, Super Meat Boy and the Binding of Isaac, but if you're familiar with Macmillan's style, The End is Nigh will make you feel right at home. It's deceptively complex, and it's got a weird sense of humor, along with tight and responsive controls. That's a good thing, because The End is Nigh's platforming challenges will push your skills to the limit. If you don't execute moves with pixel-perfect precision, you're not going to proceed. Understandably, completing The End is Nigh is very, very rare. On Steam, The End is Nigh's inaugural platform, merely 0.2% of players have earned the Dead God achievement, which unlocks when there's nothing left to do. Honestly, we're surprised that number isn't lower. If you want to complete The End is Nigh, you need to beat the game while dying fewer than 200 times, and you have to conquer all of the ultra-challenging retro-inspired glitched cartridge levels without losing once. Trying to 100% The End is Nigh is a fool's errand, but with Macmillan at the helm, what did you expect? Closing time. If you want to earn 100% in Dungeons of Dreadmore, you're going to have to let go of your mouse, shut down your severely overheated PC, and spend some more time interacting with actual people. Specific actual people, in fact. While most of Dungeons of Dreadmore's achievements can be earned by sitting down and grinding through the game's randomly generated dungeons, if you want to earn the Sewer Brew title, you'll need to hit up a bar and share a drink with one of the game's developers. Originally, Sewer Brew required players to be at the right place at the right time. In 2011, Dungeons of Dreadmore's developer, Gaslamp Games, held a special drinking event at the Penny Arcade Expo. If you happen to miss out on the one-time only party, you are out of luck. Since then, however, a few players have managed to hit up Gaslamp employees for a brewski or two, and receive special codes that unlock the achievement for their efforts. Of course, these days, getting sewer brew is even harder than it used to be. Gaslamp Games closed its stores in late 2016. These days, if you want to get sewer brew, the game's designers tell players to cheat, although it doesn't seem like many people have followed their advice. Only 0.6% of Dreadmore players have the sewer brew achievement unlocked.